Good morning, natural gas. It's Thursday, April the 30th, 2026, and today is storage day. Expectations plus 73 to plus 83. We're going to guess plus 78. That goes up against last year's plus 64. Excuse me, last year's up 104 to 105. The 5-year average up plus 64. So it's bearish versus the 5-year, bullish versus last year. So we're going to continue to add to the surplus to the 5-year average. And as you can see right now for the spot June contract, we're currently trading at 266.40, up 1.7 cents or 0.6%. And as you can see, the RSI is trying to turn higher, although we are still below the 13-period exponential moving average. So that comes in at 275.5. That will be our first target if we get a bullish surprise. So let's see what the dice roll this morning. But right now, expectations plus 78. Let's take a look at the LNG. Well, here's the Sea Eagle. It's sitting out at anchor in the Gulf of America. There is no boat loading up at Golden Pass at this time. So it is waiting for the tanks to fill up before moving into the dock. And what else is going on? Let's take a look all the way out into the Gulf of the Persian Gulf, excuse me. And right now, as you can see, we've got those two tankers that are running, basically shuttle service between Ras Laffan and Qatar, and Kuwait, because they are needing that for power generation and desalination. The the Strait of Hormuz continues to be almost non-existent for transit. There are some boats here waiting, of course, off Abu Dhabi, off Oman. So right now it's still congestion. Hopefully things will end soon, but we never know. Turning back to the United States, we've got some maintenance, spring maintenance here for Cameron LNG. So input feed gas is down over 655,000 MMBTUs. That is down 34% from its highs. That is from Criterion Research. So we'll see. This is usually 2 to 3 weeks for spring maintenance. Let's take a look at Golden Pass, and it's steady at 374,000 MMBTUs. Again, this is about 40% of capacity for Train 1. We're expecting Train 1 to be at full capacity sometime in July. Let's take a look at ERCOT, and it is overcast and quite rainy across Texas today. So our load, 56,000 and change, and our renewables, only 19,000. That's right. Natural gas is on the bid here, covering 53.4% of the fuel mix right now. That will continue throughout the day. That's a good sign. And how about the hourly chart for June? Well, we're currently now pushing above the daily pivot, which came in today at 265.10. Our first resistance, 268.80. So let's take a look. The RSI is pointing higher. Looks like we've got some short covering here ahead of the storage report. How about the Novi through March strip? Well, we're currently just sitting up 4 ticks, just up 4 ticks. 391.80 right now. The RSI is trying to turn higher here. So we're looking for a move eventually to test that 403.5 level. How about the next injection strip? That's April through October 2027. And the same thing here. The RSI has not crossed to the upside yet. We're still down just 1 tick here to 321.5. Our first objective, 325. And here's the 6 to 10-day temperature outlook. This is what's bearish right now. Below normal temperatures across the Great Lakes, above in the Pacific Northwest, and near normal much of the rest of the country, including parts of Texas and Florida. How about the weather forecast? Well, let's take a look here going through the forecast period. We do start to see some cooler temperatures pushing through, and then we start building up again that heat through the center part of the country and across the west. This will be good to set up the second half of May. The first half of May looks mixed here, not extremely bearish or bullish, but just generally back and forth. So we start to see some load here developing across the U.S. Gulf Coast as we get into the forecast period later in the month. As we get in here, you start seeing some 90-degree temperatures. Again, remember, everything's dry, so the heat will really be definitely felt. So let's take a look here on the heat risk. And as you can see, there's some minor and moderate heat risk across the Gulf Coast, mainly centered around Florida tomorrow. And then as we get into the weekend, same thing starts to build in the interior, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Colorado, as well as the west here. And that continues into Monday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday. You start seeing it push up toward Washington, D.C. for some minor heat risk. So again, remember, it's really quite mild right now, but we've got some dry conditions across the south, and any heat that comes in will really feel hot. And here's Europe. And as you can see going through the forecast period, again, those colder temperatures are centered around Eastern Europe, all the way down toward Greece and Turkey. Germany and Poland are still fairly above normal at this stage. And then they start getting some cooler weather coming in around May the 6th. And that pushes across the into the interior. And as you can see, as we get further and further along, it starts to really be moderate temperatures for Europe. How about storage? Well, we know it's about 32% full. And right now, Sweden and Netherlands are at 10% full. So Sweden, come on, let's get going. And let's take a look at the Asian markets here. It is really quite modest. There's some cooler temperatures across the eastern Chinese provinces. We get it back and forth across Korea and the eastern Chinese provinces, a little bit of cooler weather through Japan, but then it warms up as we get into the second week of May. And as you can see here, there's some temperatures that start pushing in from Mongolia, but then it's followed by warmer temperatures here towards the 12th. And that continues as we go through the 14th. How about U.S. nuclear fleet? Well, it's at 19.4 gigawatts that are offline right now, and it is starting to decline from its recent high here. As you can see, there are 3 units that are still fully down. That includes the Palisades nuclear power plant, which is supposed to turn on sometime in 2026, hopefully this summer, and that is slated for data center usage. How about Japan? Well, we're keeping an eye on it. There was one earthquake 5 hours ago, and it's that same area of clustered earthquakes we saw over the last week. We're going to keep a careful eye on it, but right now things are starting to ease off a little bit. How about the Saharan air layer? That dust is still pushing across the mid-Atlantic, but the volume is starting to diminish here. So hopefully this will ease off for the moment. But again, the prevailing winds are pushing it into South America and not toward the Gulf of America or Mexico. And how about stocks? This is the oil and gas E&P sector. Stocks between $2 and $10 billion have a high short float. Well, with natural gas kind of waffling here and crude oil off, everybody's pretty much in the sea of red here. BKV is bucking the trend at a 0.33% positive. CNX behind me here down 1.68%. So again, recapping, today is storage day. Expectation plus 78 BCF, range plus 73 to plus 83, going up against last year's plus 64, and 64 for the 5-year average, plus 104, 105 for last year. So again, we're right now trading at 266.5, up 1.8 cents or 0.68%. The RSI is pointing higher right now. So we'll look for a positive reaction and then possibly come back off before the weekend tomorrow. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.